This is Global Order. I'm Hindol Sengupta. Air Marshal Ravi Kapoor has joined me today to talk about something that the Prime Minister just announced from the ramparts of the Red Fort. Operation, rather, actually, I should say mission, not operation, Mission Sudarshan Chakra. Mission Sudarshan Chakra, India's dream project by 2035, or perhaps a little earlier, the dream to build a comprehensive air defense system, a bit like Israel's Iron Dome for India. What does this really mean? How can this be done? What are the nuts and bolts of getting this done? To talk about all of this, we have Air Marshal Ravi Kapoor. Air Marshal, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Hindol. Great to be on your show again.
Let me jump right in and then ask you. India, of course, showcased its prowess of air defense in the recently concluded Operation Sindoor a few months ago. And there also this question of building an Iron Dome-like system for India came up. But I want to ask you a couple of logistical questions. Israel is a tiny country. It's easy to build such a system that encompasses the entire country of Israel. India is vast. Its terrain is, vast. It's diverse. How difficult is it to build such a system that will encompass the whole country? Or do you think it'll be a system which actually only picks and selects some really critical infrastructure, including military infrastructure in India for the coverage of this system?
So that's a great question, and I think a question which is very important for all of us to understand as to what kind of technologies what we are going to see. So the first point I want to make on this is that this is not an Iron Dome. It's Iron Dome is primarily a defensive system, and it is designed to defend Israel and not entire Israel. Selectively places in Israel against rockets. It was earlier designed against rockets from Hamas and Hezbollah. Thereafter, it expanded when Syria and other nations around it started having missiles from Iran, short-range missiles. Then it got expanded to what was included was David Sling. And then when Iran and Yemen came into the threat picture, they expanded it further to include Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, which are the interceptor for the longer range missiles up to say 2,500 kilometers coming from Iran or Yemen and anywhere else that Israel thinks. So it is not an offensive system. That means, let us say a missile is being launched from Iran or anywhere against Israel. It will pick up the launch, but it will only intercept the weapon which is launched at Israel, and it will selectively intercept weapons which are likely to land up in strategic areas where the damage to military installation, civilian population centers, etc., could be higher. It rejects, it allows the incoming weapon to harmlessly fall in a place which is of no significant strategic or military value. It also does not look at attacking or neutralizing the places from where the missiles originate, which obviously has come into being in terms of their systems which are cruise. They have cruise missiles or they have aircraft. They undertake airstrikes against such places. So in our case, when we talk about Mission Sudarshan Chakra, it is going to be somewhere between what we know, the famous Iron Dome of Israel, and what US envisages as a Golden Dome. The US Golden Dome is 10 steps ahead of Iron Dome, in which it is going to not only stop attacks from any kind of weapons, from whether space, ground, subsurface, surface, or air, and it will also be able to neutralize the originators of these attacks. That means from wherever these attacks are. or in fact, it will be able to identify a launch site and destroy it before a weapon could be launched at US. So that is the basic difference between Iron Dome and Golden Dome. And Mission Sudarshan Chakra sits closer towards Golden Dome because it's like Prime Minister said, it will also undertake counter attack. So what do we mean by all this? Yes, you said Israel is a very small country, and even in a smaller country like Israel, they have identified areas which are to be defended, and they have allowed the projectiles to fall down harmlessly where there is going to be no anticipated damage. So the same template would apply for India. And what did Prime Minister say? He said this will be a shield against strategic centers, probably Delhi, Mumbai, or any other strategic center that the government of India identifies. It will be to safeguard or protect major population centers. It will also protect our military installations, and it will protect certain religious centers. But I think the timing of this announcement is very significant. It is significant because one day prior to the Prime Minister's speech, Pakistan announced formation or creation of Army Rocket Force Command, which means that now both Pakistan and China are going to have sufficient number of conventionally armed ballistic missiles. That means that when we talk about Operation Sindoor, we conducted a no-contact warfare. That means we never entered into their airspace. And similarly, the missiles which they fired were very few, couple of missiles, and but they realized that importance of non-contact warfare. And so this step of setting up of Army Rocket Forces Command, I think was also in line with, and also the Iran-Israel 12-day war, where there were a lot of missiles which Israel, Lebanon, and Yemen fired at Israel. And so, and if you remember, Israel counter-attacked those missile launchers with their airstrikes rather than hitting them with ballistic missiles. And I think this will be the kind of template that we will follow. And so, the degree of threat would determine the kind of protection that we have to give. Obviously, let us say Delhi. If Delhi is to be protected, then Delhi will also has to be protected against the maximum threat. That means large number of ballistic missiles, large number of cruise missiles, large number of probably air-launched long-range ballistic missiles, drones, and things like that. So when you have a multiple threat system like this, you need a multi-layered protection system, defense system. And so that defense system would consist of counter-UAS, some surface-to-air missile systems like Akash or MR-SAMs, S-400. Future, we are likely to induct Kushas, and so Kusha would come in, and thereafter the ballistic missile weapons. So all of these weapon systems have certain limitations. So a multi-layered system would ensure that a threat is first detected, then identified, tracked, and destroyed. But what it means for us in terms of detection, that's the first and foremost important point. Tomorrow's war, if we see, China already has hypersonic weapons. So if we are going to make a Sudarshan Chakra, then Sudarshan Chakra should be a potent system against all kind of weapons that we are expected to protect ourselves against. So those will be very basic UAVs, surface-to-surface missiles, cruise missiles, and hypersonic weapons. And so for this, our sensor layer presently, which is only ground-based and air-based with AWACS and AEWNC, needs to be supplemented with a very robust and strong space-based sensor layer, which should be able to detect. And the entire world is going that way. The maximum amount of research is being done in US, China, and Russia on space-based sensors. Because hypersonic weapons cannot be detected, tracked, and intercepted by our conventional missile weapon system. While S-400 is supposed to have a kind of capability, this capability is highly limited. And similarly, S-500 is supposed to have certain amount of counter hypersonic capability, but again, it is not proven. And so our solution that we are looking at would be a building block approach where a lot of present systems which are already there would get integrated with the systems and technologies which we need to integrate. It will also involve integration of surface, air, subsurface, and civilian sensors and space-based sensors. So this entire system will have to be a highly AI-enabled system and automated, so that we can actually efficiently protect ourselves and intercept the incoming threats.
Now, I'm sure it hasn't missed you that all of these announcements came at a time also when supposedly perhaps tomorrow India has issued a NOTAM on this missile testing, a very long-range missile testing. Now, there are all kind of theories going around about what this missile test will really be about. And I wanted to understand what you think. I mean, of course, there's been a lot of talk about India developing hypersonic missiles too, and the so-called very secret project of Project Vishnu and so on and so forth. But especially about this test that India has announced, which will probably happen tomorrow, from the day we were talking. I wonder what you make of it. What you make of that NOTAM in conjunction with what the Prime Minister said.
I think these are two different aspects, Sudarshan, or it could become a part of the aspect. But what I'm talking about is any conventional, we are talking conventional at this point in time. We are not talking about nuclear or strategic weapons at this point in time. And so if we talk about conventional weapons, tomorrow's test, I think, is the ranges that have been given are around 5,000 kilometers. Now, 5,000 kilometers, we have Agni system. Agni 5 is a system. And we have already, I think, tested basic technologies of multiple independently targeted re-entry vehicles on that. And so, in my opinion, this test would be a progression of that series of missiles that we are inducting into our military. And so, I do not see it directly, but there is also a lot of news is going around that India is developing a Agni 5 bunker buster. Now, while yes, Agni 5 bunker buster is a great idea, is good, but what is the kind of CEP it gets? So yes, a missile with that kind of accuracy and with a very big warhead can go through into a highly protected structures like Fordo in Iran, which was attacked by the massive ordnance penetrator, GBU-57. And so this is, in my opinion, this is most likely a test of Agni 5 class of missile. It would depend on whether we are testing it into the bunker busting format or into the strategic format. So that is the only thing. As far as your question on hypersonic...
Yes, please go on. Please go on, yes.
Your question on hypersonic weapons is concerned. Hypersonic weapons are categorized into are segregated into two basic types. One is the hypersonic glide vehicle. So the hypersonic glide vehicle is nothing but a ballistic missile on which a hypersonic warhead or a system is integrated. And once it is released, the warhead is released, it will follow a trajectory which ensures that the warhead continues to fly at a speed more than Mach 5. Because what happens is, otherwise, the speed of this warhead, when it follows a normal ballistic trajectory, as it re-enters atmosphere, its speed starts reducing because of the atmospheric friction. And so for it to maintain hypersonic velocities, it must remain outside the Earth's atmosphere. So it remains in the near space atmosphere, near space altitudes, and where it is able to maintain a velocity and while maneuvering to maintain above the Earth's atmosphere till it hits the target. So that is a hypersonic glide vehicle. We did the test in last year in November 2024 of a hypersonic glide vehicle. So it was a kind of a demonstrator. There are a lot of technologies and other things that need to be refined and proven before it becomes operational. The second is the hypersonic cruise missile, or what we call HSTDV. That it was a demonstration vehicle. The test which was conducted in 2020 or around that time. And what we conducted, I think this year or end of last year, 1,000-second scramjet ground run test. Now, what is done by in a hypersonic missile is that the missile continues to travel and is supported by an engine, which is a scramjet engine, which ensures that the velocity remains above 5. And it could go up to, let's say, Mach 8, which is what India wants to do under Project Vishnu. So these two technologies are yet in the very, very basic stage, and I do not see them maturing in the next about 3 to 5 years. So for us to operationalize a hypersonic glide vehicle or a hypersonic cruise missile is going to take about 5 to 7 years for it to materialize. And very interestingly, all our futuristic systems, which our Prime Minister wants in mission mode, because he's giving name of mission. And mission is like Mission Shakti that we did when we did ASAT test. That means it is a big challenge. And everything seems to be coming around 2035 timeline. So it's going to be a major, major challenge for our research development organization, the DRDO, and the industry to get all these technologies to mature at the same time. Even AMCA is supposed to be in 2035. So this is a big challenge, I think, for our entire, research fraternity.
Other question, and of course, we thought we'll discuss this at length at another date, and maybe we will. But since we've discussed hypersonic missiles too, I cannot but ask you also about this project Ghatak, this unmanned UAV program that we have, of this entire drone ecosystem, both public and private ecosystem that we are building. And we saw the impact of drones, Air Marshal, even in Operation Sindoor. And of course, there's Turkey, there's China, and lots of action happening there. And India, for a long time, it wasn't clear what India was doing in this entire drone ecosystem. But now we have a deeper sense. And I wonder whether you could expound on that a little bit.
Ghatak is again a DRDO ADA program of making a stealth drone, which can be used for both intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, as well as for strike roles. And so it would come into a UCAV category, or what we call the remotely piloted strike aircraft or vehicle, or we can name whichever way. And this is supposed to be powered by what we call the dry derivative of Kaveri jet engine, which can produce up to about 50 kilonewtons of thrust. And so this will be able to carry weapons in the internal base like a 5th generation stealth platform. And I think Ghatak is not the only one. There is a lot of development going on around stealth UAVs, but this seems to be the only. The other is the the CATS Warrior, which HAL is developing, for which they have already conducted a ground run. And the third is there is a new space era company. It's a private drone company which is making Abhimanyu, which is the close combat collaborative aircraft for the Navy. And so these projects all fall into different dimensions of stealth UCAV platforms, because finally, whether it is manned unmanned teaming, or it is a standalone UAV, all of them will remain stealth and will be either they are going to be guided by a drone pilot sitting on the ground remotely, or they would be controlled by an aircraft which is flying in the air. So all these will be the stealth platforms. And once again, the Ghatak is some time away, in my opinion, to be completely produced. So we'll see. I think Op Sindoor was just a kind of a very small level of saturation. But what we are going to see now, because of which I think the government has conceived this Mission Sudarshan Chakra, we are going to see a huge number of drones and surface-to-surface missiles and cruise missiles. Another thing that comes to my mind is finally as we go into the counter stealth technologies and all these weapon systems will again face a huge kind of counter measures. And so there are a lot of other technologies which will have to be incorporated when we look at the stealth drone or Ghatak.
This is building a new kind of picture for India's aerial defense systems, isn't it, Air Marshal? We are, in a sense, entering a new age of air defense in India, considering the kind of threats it faces. Would you say that, we are, in a sense, getting into a whole new age of air defense in India, and what would that mean?
See, I think it is in line with the contours or the character of future war. The future warfare, if you see, is all long range, and it completely, relies on not being seen, and so it is the right, I think, step. But if I can conceptualize for our viewers, what would it look like? It would be an integration of sensors which are all ground radars, whether it is army radar, air force radar, naval radar, even civilian radars. It would integrate the AEWC and AWACS. It will integrate all the RPAs which are sending ISR data. It will integrate any kind of tethered balloons or aerostats which are there. And finally, it will integrate all the sensors which are space-based. Whether it is IR sensor, whether it is RF sensor, whether it is a LNT sensor, or whether it's a electro-optical sensor or a radar sensor. So when we say that this is the kind of integration that is required, it is huge work and huge technology which is there. Most importantly, when we go into this completely networked environment, the cyber security issues also have to be looked into, because there will be jamming of your space-based sensors, there will be counter space operations, and so that has to be secured and redundancies have to be built in. Now, let us assume that three things are launched by our adversary. One is drone, thereafter it's a cruise missile, and the third is a ballistic missile, and the fourth is a hypersonic weapon. These four weapons are launched by our adversary. Now, if you see who's going to first pick it up, the space layer will have to be the first layer to pick it up, because it is in the fourth dimension and it is having the vantage. So what kind of satellites we would need? We would need lower Earth orbit satellites, we would need medium Earth orbit satellites, and we would need geostationary satellites, because we are talking about ranges of about 2,500 to 2,700 kilometers into our adversary's airspace. So these, if we see a ballistic missile of about, say, 300 kilometers odd range, the flight time is about 8 to 10 minutes, approximately. A ballistic missile, which is about 2,500 kilometers range, would be about 18 minutes to 20 minutes or so. depending on the trajectory it takes. So this is the timeline we have. Now, when a drone is picked up, it will have to be then go into a central database, which will decide that which is the best place, which is the best weapon in this multi-layered system, which will intercept this. So first detect, identify, track, and assign it to a particular system. Similarly, the cruise missile. Cruise missiles will again be picked up by the space-based sensors as well as your ground sensors, because the cruise missiles are subsonic weapons and they will get picked up. The ballistic missile will be picked up by the space-based infrared at the time of launch because of the plume, and thereafter the RF signals it gives. And the hypersonic will be again by the space-based layer. Now, once this is given, the point of impact will be calculated at the center, at the nerve center of the entire control system. Once the point of impact is calculated, it will be passed on to the most appropriate system. So for a ballistic missile defense, let us say if we have a choice between a S-400 and a ballistic missile defense, then a decision would be made whether we should use ballistic missile defense or S-400, depending on what is the speed at which the missile is coming. So if it is a longer range missile, it would be given to ballistic missile defense. And if it is a shorter range missile, it could be given to a S-400. Similarly, the cruise missile would be given to a Akash or a MRSAM or any other weapon system, even a close-in weapon system. So what does it mean is that there are thousands of sensors which are integrating. All the sensors are giving data, and that data has to be analyzed. So it has to be an AI-enabled concept. It cannot be a human in loop. Human will only be supervisory. Human cannot take a decision that it will be assigned to so-and-so. Because we are looking at thousands of interceptors, we are looking at thousands of sensors. And so this is the kind of that, let us say the missile is coming towards Delhi, then which battery will take on will be completely automated. Similarly, a scaled down version would be, let us say, there is a small little system or a vital point, and we do not expect much damage to it. We will not defend it with a ballistic missile defense or a S-400. But the layer defense would give us various options to choose the right option so that it is an efficient solution. Because what you saw in the Iran-Israel war, 12 days, by 10th day, Iran had fired very, very basic missiles, which are not really, long range and high-speed missiles. So Israel utilized a lot of its firepower in the first 10 days, because of which we saw that the success rate, which was 90%, went down to almost 80% in the last 2 days. That means more missiles could penetrate. And so this whole Mission Sudarshan Chakra will need huge investment, and a blueprint will have to be formulated first to decide what are the strategic assets, what are the strategic centers, where what kind of defense has to be there, depending on the threat we envisage there.
Quickly,
and there are a lot of
Please go on.
And there are a lot of these systems which are already there. We already have a lot of counter US systems. We already have S-400s. We already have Akashas and medium range SAMs. And so utilizing all of this and the technologies that are coming along with it will be a building block approach. And it will not be a pan-India system in one go. It will continue to expand from the highest center of gravity to the lower center of gravity. And so it will have to be monitored by a very, very, strong oversight, probably PMO, because he has said it is a mission mode. A mission is a strategic thing, and it will be comprised of many projects and programs who will continue to contribute to this mission. And so it is, as it evolves, I think every year we'll have to take a look at where we are and where do we want to go.
We only have 5 minutes left, but I want to ask you two very quick questions, and if you could give me two quick answers. One is that all of this also involves a particular kind of space technology, and I know India has been developing this. Where do you see that program? How far do you think that program has advanced? Our space defense system, so to speak. And my last question would be, if I could bundle them together, isn't it curious that the Prime Minister decided to talk about this in the Independence Day speech? I mean, there haven't been that many speeches of Indian Prime Ministers where they've spoken in such detail about cutting edge, futuristic defense program. How do you see this?
So the second question first.
Okay.
I think it's a very strategic decision. It conveys a clear message to the world that India is ready to invest in high technologies. India has confidence in its R&D agencies and its private industry, which is growing. I think there is more accountability today than it was 5 years back. So I think it is his confidence in India and a message to the entire world in the turbulent times that we live in, that don't challenge India, and a clear message to Pakistan and all the supporters that that this is a system, we will always remain 2 steps ahead of you, and this kind of the conventional superiority Pakistan will never be able to breach, even if it goes the path of partnership with all its partners. Coming to the space part, the space part is we are, I think, way behind. Let us accept it. The SBS phase 3, which the government has cleared, will take some time to establish. The both China, Russia, and US are heavily into counter space technologies and counter space operations, and and so if we want to do these things, we'll have to. I think there is a certain amount of maturity that we have in electro-optical sensors. We have certain maturity in SAR based and LN, but we are yet a distance away on hyperspectral and multispectral. And so these are the areas in which we'll have to develop, and we'll have to launch a lot of satellites to ensure that we have persistence in space to tackle these threats. Because if you don't have space, then the time available to you, the warning available to intercept reduces drastically. And that is where space becomes the most important part. Cyber and space will have to be tackled on war footing. And that's why I say Space Command is required immediately.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, Air Marshal Ravi Kapoor. As always, very, very succinct. And also, the breadth is really wide of all the things that we need to know about Mission Sudarshan Chakra, announced by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as part of his Independence Day speech from Red Fort on August the 15th. And of course, all the other defense systems that make up this grand plan. Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Sengupta. It is great to be on your show again. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Look forward, sir. Look forward to very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.